It's Phantom 105.2. That's a great song. We have a very good reason for cutting it short. Jim Kerr of Simple Minds, welcome to Phantom 105.2.
Thank you very much. A pleasure.
Well, I must say to you, coming into the studio in that rain, we're delighted that you made it.
Oh, listen, a pleasure. We've been in Dublin. Simple Minds have been in Dublin the last 10 days, rehearsing for a new tour that starts next week, and enjoying every moment, and enjoying the fact that you're happy to have us in here.
Absolutely thrilled. I mean, people who listen to this show, Jim, know that I'm a huge fan of the band. Did you ever see, you know Dave Fanning, don't you?
I certainly do, yeah.
Dave did an interview with George Martin a few years ago, a TV interview, and it was basically went something along like this. George, do you know in the third verse of Eleanor Rigby, why did you have that thing in there? Well, in the second take of it wasn't there, and why did you leave it off the album for the final take? And George was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. This will be like that, Jim.
All right, well, Charlie, if you get a few blank stares from me, it's because Charlie Burtsell's your man with the minutiae.
Is he?
But nevertheless, always great to meet any kind of fan, you know, or even the taxi driver yesterday. Was a fella said, he said, yeah, you're your man, the man from, and I said, Crime Watch? And he said, no, don't be like that. Simply Red. I said, not quite. He said, well, I'm a fan anyway. I said, are you? He said, yeah. I said, well, that's great. And it is great.
Well, Jim, Simple Minds, and you've said it yourself, and you've stressed it, you're not a band who like to look back. You're always looking to the future. But it's fair to say that in the last year, you've looked back with the 5x5 tour, and now with the Greatest Hits tour. Having said that, you're working on a new album. We'll get to that. But has it been nice for you, though, to sort of look back to the past when Simple Minds really are all about looking forward?
It's been great. I mean, you mentioned there, it was a year ago exactly this month that we finished our last tour in Dublin. We had a great night at the Olympia, where we're about to start this new tour. It was a very different setup. We were doing, for those who don't know, we were doing 5 songs from the first 5 albums, which was sort of non-hits tour in a way.
5.5 albums.
Was it 5.5 albums?
It, yeah. Okay. Sister Feelings Call.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
There you go.
See, there you're starting that Dave Fanning stuff.
No, tell it.
So it was almost a non-hits tour. There was because for people who know Simple Minds know that it was quite a few albums until we broke through mainstream. But anyway, we knew that was going to be a challenge, that tour, because, you know, you can't really go back to the past. That was then, this is now. But if you do it right, you can kind of call up the ghosts. Yeah. And I think we managed to do that, and we had a ball, and I think it's safe to say so to the people who came to see us. We really enjoyed it.
Well, Jim, I did read an interview where you said before the tour you were sort of being presented with these songs maybe by Andy Gillespie, who was saying, let's do this, and you're like, oh, that old thing. But when you actually got to perform them and rehearse them, you were like, Jesus, there's actually a lot to say about this song.
Yeah, it's the truth. There's a funny thing with music, I guess. Actually, you see it in fashion, you see it in design, you see it in architecture, you know. Things have their moment, and then they seem wildly out of the moment. And then, lo and behold, it's almost like the cycle comes round again. They either take on a new meaning or a new potency, or they're relevant once again. And so we had songs that we went back to thinking, you know, Billy trying to get in an old pair of jeans that, you know, not only don't quite fit either both in size or in style, but in fact these songs, a lot of those songs, they felt fantastic, and the interesting thing was a lot of them, far from feeling like old things, we'd quite a few of the people who work with us now, the management and stuff, they're, let's say, a lot younger than us,
right? And
they would say, that new song you're putting in, and we'd say, what new song? That song Celebrate. That's not a new song. And, oh, that sounds so contemporary, etc. There was quite a bit of that going on, and in fact, although we thought when we were doing that tour that they would be songs we would have a dalliance with one last time, some of them have become mainstay again. They've fought their way back into the set, and indeed you may well hear a few of them again on Monday night.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. That's what I was leading up to. This now being the Greatest Hits tour, kicking off for 2 sold-out nights, let's say, in the Olympia, Monday and Tuesday. If tickets become available to beat the touts, we will let the listeners know. But
magic.
As far as we know now, it is both nights sold out. Are there any songs then from, say, the hits that you are rediscovering that maybe you didn't rate so much the last few years, that in rehearsals now are proving to be much like the songs from the 5x5? Any songs that maybe you got tired of singing that have sort of taken on a new life?
Yeah, She's a River sounds with a fellow called, he's been playing with us about 3 years now, Jed Grimes, on bass. And the great thing is, I mean, the downside of when you have an original lineup and some of the original guys go, you obviously, you lose some firepower. There's no doubt about it, and we certainly did. The upside is that, who would want to play with the same people for 20, 30 years? It's good to have people coming in, and when they come in, if they're the spirited types, of which Jed is, he would say, "You're playing that wrong."
Right.
And you say, "What do you mean? We wrote it." Yeah, but listen to it again. That's based. It's all small things, but overall, maybe the whole thing's much more grounded, or it's as heavy. It's heavier than it was, and therefore it's all the better for it. Things like that. Or on the other hand, it's funkier, or it grooves better, or whatever. And that's the case with a song like "She's a River."
I know that none of the band at the time were all that keen on one of the songs on what many would say is the finest Simple Minds album, "You Go Dream." "Glittering Prize" wasn't a band favourite, but how can I ask, are you doing that on the tour? And
we are, and it sounds wonderful. It wasn't, we liked the song. I think back then we wrote this song, and at the time there was a lot of great music coming out that year in the UK and in Ireland, and Trevor Horn was doing this great stuff with ABC, and we just loved it. And we thought Glittering Prize could be like a Trevor Horn thing, but we just didn't have the chops then. We have them now.
Well, you ended up working with Trevor Horn then for Street Fighting years.
We did later on, yeah, that's right. And well, I mean, we've been really lucky. I was reading an interview the day. I was reading a piece today that was talking about Steve Lillywhite, and we worked with him. We worked with Trevor Horn, John Leckie, Jimmy Iovine, Bob Clearmountain. I mean, some of the true greats.
Yeah. Because the reason I mentioned Trevor Horn is I read a diary piece you had done for the official website last week where you were talking about Dublin.
Yeah.
And back in '89 you were staying in the Shelbourne.
Yes. And
rehearsing for the tour in what's now the O2, was then the Point Depot. And that you were saying that you missed some of the people from back then, but that...
Oh, you do, yeah.
But was that a particularly happy time for Simple Minds?
No, the wheels were coming off, and I can't really tell you why, because I don't know. Actually, I was thinking today, I mean, very few bands managed to get past a decade. Beatles were only playing for a decade, I think, in terms of the Pink Floyd, Rolling Stones never kept, well, if you've got the odd one popping their clogs as well, that doesn't help matter, but very few bands stay the original lineup for more than a decade, and after a decade, Simple Minds, some of the guys were not as into it, and I could never understand this, because we've been blessed from the high heavens doing this. I could never understand someone saying, well, I've done it for 10 years, I think they were in Alcatraz the way they were talking about it.
You're talking about mixed.
I am really, as opposed to staying in the Shelbourne. You'd think you're staying in Alcatraz the way you put it, but not everyone is the same. And again, thank God, Charlie Burchill and I, we are the same. I think we were born to do this. It took me a long time, but I think, when we started the band, as I've said to people, there wasn't really any old guys. Well, the only old guys doing it were the old blues black guys, and it would never dawn on you to say to them, why are you still doing this? it was written on their face. That's who they were. Well, in our case, Charlie and I's case, I think we're well into over 3.5 decades. We start touring in a few nights' time. We only stopped touring before Christmas. So you'd say, what are you rehearsing for? You should be able to pick it up in a couple of days. The band's in there 10 hours every day. We've probably got 12 songs in the set that we didn't have in Australia. We're polishing arrangements, changing things around. It shouldn't feel like that. It should feel routine. It should feel whatever. It's
interesting though, because last year, particularly around the time of the reissue of the first 5 albums, and then the announcement of the 5x5 tour, people started saying things about Simple Minds that they hadn't said for years. As in, like, you know, these guys were hugely influential to the Manic Street Preachers, hugely influential to the Horrors. I mean, it must have been gratifying at last, because people who like Simple Minds know that Simple Minds have always been pushing the
Thank you, yeah,
I've
thank
always,
you.
you know,
Yeah.
there might have been an album here or there that didn't meet either the band or the fans' expectations, but always pushing forward. And there's about 7 bands called Simple Minds, isn't there?
I think there is, you know, when people say to me, you know, I think which Simple Minds, is it the early art rock, or is it the Stadium Days, or the pop of New Gold Dream, or the folk of Belfast Child, or the electro theme for great cities, which again, all power to the guys, all of them, that I've had the fortune to work with, because they had that musical reach. You know, how we could do all that and yet not lose identity.
So when you were maybe flicking through Mojo last March and people saying Simple Minds, you know, they are actually a very, very, you were probably going, about time you caught up.
It's nice.
Must have been nice,
It's nice. It's nice. There's no doubt. I mean, we never really felt anyone owed us anything, but we did think, hang on a minute, we're not a footnote here. You know. I mean, band of a generation and all that, I think. And I think a lot of it was, what's this footnote business? Well,
it's interesting you say that again, because I want to talk about the new album for a couple of minutes anyway, but the amount of people, when word finally came through yesterday that you would come and see us, and I'll be honest, Jim, a bit of We came out. A bit of We came out. The amount of people who said saw them in Croker in '86 with the Thunder and Lightning, saw them in '89 in the RDS. The amount of memories that Simple Minds music.
Well, likewise for us, people here gave us immense times. I mean, it's a two-way thing, you know. Never forget the SFX.
'84.
We'll never forget Croke Park. We'll never forget being in Cork, being in Galway. People here have been so generous to us, so encouraging. In fact, they were so generous, Charlie Burchill and I stayed in Dublin for about 5 years.
You did, and last year I told you that I was in the Stephen's Green looking, waiting for you to walk by so you could sign my albums. You never did.
Did we not? Oh, no.
No, you
we need to sort that out.
So I brought an album which you'll find later, hopefully. But come here, Jim, the new album, you said is it true you got 5 or 6 songs in the can already?
Half a dozen, and I mean, anyone listening would say, well, he would say that, but I wouldn't actually. I would say, come on, it's you're always excited when you're getting something new in the pipeline. But it sounded super good. And I think even if anyone hears the couple of new tracks on the Hits album that's coming out, it'll give you more than a clue as to where it was going. But, you know, they're full-blooded songs. I think the quality's there.
Good. Well, we're going to let you go in a couple of minutes, and we're also going to play one of the new singles, Broken Glass Park, from the new best of, a copy of which can be won every hour of the show here on Phantom. But, Jim, you are releasing Broken Glass Park and a Milo remix of Promised You a Miracle.
Oh, yeah.
For Record Store Day on vinyl. I know Record Store Day is very important to you. You and Charlie signed down in Sister Ray in London last year.
That was a great day, yes.
What's happened to record shops, Jim? And what are we going to do about it?
Well, that is a great thing. I mean, one of the key, in the Simple Minds stories, one of the key figures, our first ever manager, a fellow called Bruce Finlay. And Bruce, people in Dublin will probably know about Belfast, Terry Hooley.
Yes.
Well, you know, they're brothers in arms. Bruce was Scotland's
Bruce's Records.
Bruce's Records. He had 5 or 6, and Bruce was the vinyl junkie, and we would all hang around Bruce's shops, and he was the one that could tell you about record companies and all that stuff. Lo and behold, it was best mate becomes your manager, and all that's from the early days, you know. So record shops were not only places for us to buy records, but they were to bond and meet band members, and we grew up in them basically. And in fact, Broken Glass Park sort of touches on it, where we talk about learning Purple Haze and all that. So it's very sad. It's sad to see. But I guess, I don't know what, you're a younger fella than me, but I guess it's part of getting older. The world you knew, kind of, even those elements of it that you think could never disappear, do disappear.
Well then, last couple of questions for you, Jim. Tell me then, with Record Store Day coming up, is there a record that changed your life, and what is it?
There's no doubt. I mean, it's very topical because everyone's talking about it at the moment, but there's no doubt for me that getting Ziggy Stardust changed my life. If you'd say why, I mean, there was music and there was chart music, and the Beatles had already come and gone. But it was from another planet. The look, the lyrics, the sounds, the imagery, and because my parents would look at the sleeve and say, "What the."
Is that a boy or a girl?
What are you? What are these weirdos? and now my dad will say, "I'll tell you what, that Heroes is a lovely song." You know, but yeah, it felt like this was our time, and therefore, you know, life, hearing that and seeing it, life really was never the same again.
Yeah. Did you get the new Bowie album?
I got it a couple of weeks ago, and I had the chance to hear it this week.
Right, and have you got it with you in Dublin?
I've got it with me in Dublin, yeah.
Have you got the one with the bonus tracks in it, Jim?
I must have it. I must have.
There you go. Just in case you don't.
I don't have a physical copy, but
you do now.
But maybe I do now. You're a good man.
I'll autograph it for you.
You do that as well.
Well, listen, Jim. Simple Minds playing Monday and Tuesday in the Olympia. Cannot wait. Great to see the band touring so much, because the first time I was into you guys was when Street Fighting Years came out. I was too young to go to the gig.
Right.
And I had to wait till 1995, St. Patrick's Day, to see you.
Wow.
But now it's every couple of years the Minds are back.
Yeah, we do. We play, you know. I mean, I think there's one thing I think has been consistent from our first ever day, and yeah, I keep seeing people say, you know, when you started, did you think it would last this long, or what did you want out of it? I mean, back then we couldn't see beyond the end of the month. You were 16, you know, you lived in the moment. But I'm confident if you'd said, what do you want out of it, we would have said, you know, we want to be a great live band, and we want to tour constantly, and we want to take it around the world. And we've, again, as I say, we've been blessed in the fact that we've not only had the opportunity to do that, but we're still having the opportunity to work with that challenge.
Jim, thank you so much for coming into us, especially in that weather.
We'll see you on Monday and Tuesday.
And I will expect the opening track of the new album to be called Dublin Storm.
Okay, all right, we can look for that.
Let's play Broken Glass Park, the new single. The video, if you haven't seen it, features Jim and the lads when they're about 18 or 19.
But Charlie looks about 17.
He looks about 6.
Charlie looks, he still looks, yeah, you're right, that's the point.
This is Broken Glass Park, released as a double A-side on vinyl for Record Store Day with a Milo remix of Promise You a Miracle, which we've played a couple of times yesterday, for example. This is Broken Glass Park. Jim Kerr, thank you, see you Monday.
See you then.
We are Phantom.